Thank you, Nina and Ricky. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alma Angeles for NET25 World News. On tonight's headlines. A powerful blizzard slams multiple U.S. states, grounding over 1,000 flights and causing major travel disruptions. The FBI releases new video of the New Orleans attacker planting explosive devices, revealing the high-tech glasses he used to record his bike ride through the French Quarter months earlier.
Jabbar was wearing a pair of Meta glasses when he conducted the attack on Bourbon Street, but he did not activate the glasses to live stream his actions that day.
In the West Philippine Sea, the Philippines is stepping up patrols with air and sea assets after China's largest Coast Guard vessel, known as the Monster, was spotted near Zambales. Manila calls it a clear act of intimidation and aggression. And at Las Vegas, CES 2025 kicks off next week with groundbreaking tech innovations from AI-powered robots to futuristic health devices. But rising tariff concerns could dominate the conversations. And the news starts now. A winter storm brought snow, ice, and freezing temperatures to a broad swath of the U.S. on Sunday, and the bad weather has placed some 60 million people across more than a dozen states, from Kansas to New Jersey, under winter storm warnings, advisories, or watches. Mark Castillo reports.
All across the central U.S., Americans are digging out from a snowfall that ranged between 15 and 30 centimeters. The storm moved toward the mid-Atlantic, where Washington, D.C. braced for heavy snow and bitter cold today, Monday. The U.S. Congress is set to meet today and formally certify Republican Donald Trump's election as president. In the U.S. Capitol, Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson says the weather will not prevent lawmakers from carrying out their duties. But in several states, things come to a standstill. Kansas and parts of northwestern Missouri endured blizzard conditions into Sunday afternoon. A blanket of snow and ice covered roadways, and officials urged residents to avoid travel. The back end of the storm system, meanwhile, produced severe thunderstorms capable of spinning off tornadoes in Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. Air travelers found themselves grounded as the storm forced the cancellation of hundreds of flights. Governors in several states, including Kansas, Kentucky, Arkansas, West Virginia, and Virginia, declared states of emergency. The storm will move offshore by tonight, but bone-chilling Arctic air is set to move in behind it, with daytime temperatures today and tomorrow predicted to be below average from the Great Plains to the East Coast. Mark Castillo for NET25 World News.
Heavy snow and freezing rain brought the UK to a standstill, causing power cuts, road closures, and major travel disruptions. Areas like the Midlands, Southwest England, and South Wales, including Birmingham, Bristol, and Cardiff, were hit hard, with the national grid working to restore electricity. The Met Office had warned of up to 30 centimeters of snow and issued multiple alerts. Bristol Airport even paused flights for several hours, but managed to resume operations after clearing the runways. Forecasters also warned of potential power cuts, rural areas being cut off, and travel delays, while Scotland and Northern Ireland face milder warnings. The Philippines has sent air and sea assets from its military Coast Guard to keep an eye on China's largest Coast Guard vessel, calling the ship's presence an act of intimidation, coercion, and aggression.
Well, nasa loob nga po ng exclusive economic zone ng ating bansa ang 5901, yung tinatawag nilang monster ship kasi medyo malaki ito. Ngunit hindi po natin ito pinapabayaan lang. Minamanmanan natin, in fact, we're shadowing it. Nandyan pa rin po hanggang ngayon ang BRP Cabra na siyang nagbabantay at sinusundan itong 5901 sa anumang galaw nito. At meron tayong mga ibang assets gaya ng eroplano mula sa Coast Guard at iba pa mga assets ng ating Northern Luzon Command, ng Area Task Force North, ng National Task Force West Philippine Sea. Well, mukhang parte ito ng intimidation, parte ito ng coercion, aggression, deception na ginagawa ng China. Pinapakita nila na may ganito silang barko at tinatakot yung ating mga mangingisda na mangisda sa West Philippine Sea. Ngayon, in response to this, ipapaigtingin pa natin yung presensya ng ating BIFAR at ng Coast Guard para suportahan yung ating mga mangingisda. China-challenge natin ito hanggang sa ngayon, no? Kasi ang sinasabi nitong Chinese Coast Guard ay they are conducting a patrol within their area, yung sinasabi, within their jurisdiction, na wala naman pong bansa at na sumusuporta dito. Hindi naman ito nakasaad sa international law. Doon sa sinasabi ng ating Philippine Coast Guard, sinasabi natin na yung presensya nyo ay mali, no? At hindi ito nakasaad sa batas. And ito namang monster ship ay wala namang ginagawang blocking or any dangerous maneuvers. Ito ay tumatakbo lang naman ito, at given na we do not want to be the precursor of any provocative action, as of now, ang ginagawa natin ay minamanmanan natin ito at sinashadow natin.
The Philippines Coast Guard reported that the 165-meter-long vessel known as the Monster was about 65 to 70 nautical miles off the coast of Zambales province. The Philippine Coast Guard also shared a video in which they ordered the Chinese vessel to leave the area, emphasizing that it had no authority to operate there.
Coast Guard, CD5901. This is BRP Cabra, MRRB 4409. We are reminding you that you are within 72.6 nautical miles west by the south of Silangin, Zambales, inside in the Philippine Exclusive Economic Zone. Please leave this area immediately. Over.
In response, the Chinese ship said it was conducting law enforcement duties within its own jurisdictional waters. The Chinese monster ship has been reportedly anchored in Philippine waters, particularly near Ayungin Shoal and Escoda Shoal since last year. A massive fire broke out at the Boardtech Shending Tech Company in Guanyin District, Taiwan City. Now, the fire started around 12:45 p.m. in the production area on the second floor where heaters and chemicals were present. By 8:30 p.m. Sunday, most of the fire had been contained. As of this morning, 10:36, firefighters continue working to extinguish small remaining flames. Boardtech Shending employs nearly 3,000 workers, including Taiwanese, Vietnamese, Thai, and around 400 Filipino workers. Fortunately, no fatalities have been reported so far. Authorities are continuing their efforts to fully control the fire and investigate the cause of the incident. Israel and Hamas wrangled over the details of a deal to halt fighting in the Gaza Strip and return hostages home. At the same time, Palestinian officials say intensified Israeli bombardments killed more than 100 people over the weekend. A renewed push is underway to reach a ceasefire in the 15-month war between Israel and Hamas and return Israeli hostages who were taken to Gaza before U.S. President-elect Donald Trump takes office on January 20th. Thomas I. Likeness for more.
A major issue in the talks is the fate of the hostages. A Hamas official says it has approved a list of 34 Israeli hostages to be returned as part of a deal that could eventually lead to a ceasefire. But Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office quickly responded, saying Hamas had not provided a hostage list. Later on Sunday, the Hamas official provided Reuters news service with a copy of the list, showing the names of 34 hostages it agreed to set free in any possible ceasefire deal with Israel. Now, that partial deal does not sit well with the families of the hostages. They demonstrated Saturday night in Tel Aviv in front of the Defense Ministry. One relative, Zahiro Shahar Moore, addressed the crowd. He appealed to U.S. President-elect Donald Trump, who does not take office for another 2 weeks.
Mr. President, sir, do not agree to a partial hostage deal. That is a confirmed death sentence to those left behind, and it will ensure the war drags on aimlessly and endlessly. Please, Mr. President, do not agree to this partial deal, which will allow the most extreme factions in Netanyahu's government to erect settlements in the Gaza Strip above and over the living corpses of our loved ones, tortured in airless Hamas tunnels deep underground.
Former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, who Netanyahu fired in November, joined the rally. Demonstrators scuffled with police as they tried to clear protesters from a main road in Tel Aviv. Meanwhile, ceasefire talks resumed last Friday in Doha. They're being brokered by Qatari and Egyptian mediators. Hamas says it's committed to reaching an agreement as soon as possible, but it's unclear how close the two sides are. Netanyahu has consistently said the war will only end once Hamas is eradicated as a military and governing force. As the negotiations continue, the fighting rages on. Israeli military strikes continued throughout Gaza on Sunday. Medics say the Israeli action killed 105 Palestinians. The Israeli military says it had killed dozens of Hamas militants. For now, the ceasefire appears to be as far off as ever. Thomas I. Likeness, NET25 World News.
North Korea launched a missile while U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken was visiting Seoul, underscoring the need for stronger cooperation among the U.S., South Korea, and Japan to counter Pyongyang's growing threat. The missile, likely an intermediate-range ballistic one, flew over 1,100 kilometers before landing in the sea. That is according to South Korea's military. Blinken addressed the test in a press conference.
We condemn the DPRK's missile launch just today, yet another violation of multiple UN Security Council resolutions. What we've worked to do over these last 4 years is two things. First, we have sought to engage the DPRK and multiple efforts to sit down, to talk without any preconditions. We communicated that on many occasions. We've done it privately, we've done it publicly. And the only response, effectively, we've gotten has been more and more provocative actions, including the missile launches.
He also raised concerns about North Korea's deepening ties with Russia, saying Moscow could share satellite technology in exchange for Pyongyang's support in the Ukraine war.
In the last week of December, more than 1,000 North Korean forces were killed or wounded in Kursk, casualties of Russia's effort to redraw the border of a sovereign country, Ukraine, to do it by force, and a sign of the growing threat posed by heightened cooperation between revisionist authoritarians in Moscow and in Pyongyang. Now, this is a two-way street. The DPRK is already receiving Russian military equipment and training. Now, we have reason to believe that Moscow intends to share advanced space and satellite technology with Pyongyang, and that Putin may be close to reversing a decades-long policy by Russia and accepting DPRK's nuclear weapons program.
While President Biden has strengthened trilateral cooperation, political shifts could challenge this progress. South Korean lawmakers recently impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol, and with Donald Trump set to return to office, the stability of these alliances remains uncertain. Blinken, who also met with acting South Korean President Choi Sang-mok, expressed confidence in South Korea's democratic institutions.
Korea's democracy has been tested in recent weeks, just as American democracy has faced challenges throughout our history. But you are responding by demonstrating your democratic resilience. The United States has full confidence in South Korea's institutions, and we reaffirm our unwavering support for the Korean people as they work tirelessly to uphold those institutions.
South Korea's political crisis deepens as presidential security chief refuses to cooperate with Yoon Suk-yeol's arrest.
Thousands braved the rain and snow to rally in South Korea's capital Seoul on Sunday as a warrant for impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol's arrest was set to expire at midnight on Monday. Some demanded Yoon's arrest following his botched attempt at imposing martial law in Asia's fourth largest economy last month, while other protesters opposed it. In remarks that could push the political crisis towards another high-stakes confrontation, the presidential security chief said on Sunday he could not cooperate with efforts to arrest the impeached leader.
대통령 경호처는
Park Chung-jun cited the legal debate surrounding the warrant, saying that Yoon is still president, even though Parliament had voted to impeach him. It's up to the Constitutional Court to make a final decision on whether to remove or reinstate him. Park's comments came after a Seoul court rejected a complaint from Yoon's lawyers that the arrest warrant was illegal and invalid, the Yonhap news agency reported. His lawyers have said the anti-graft force leading his criminal probe has no authority under South Korean law to investigate any case involving insurrection accusations. On Saturday, the investigators had asked acting President Choi Sang-mok, the finance minister, to order the Presidential Security Service to comply with the arrest warrant. That came a day after the security officers blocked them from arresting Yoon in a 6-hour standoff. In a statement on Sunday, the Finance Ministry said Choi urged authorities to make sure no one was hurt by efforts to enforce the law.
In a surprising turn of events, Malaysia's appeals court granted to ex-premier Najib Razak access to a document he claims should allow him to serve his sentence at home. This marks a rare win for the disgraced leader at the center of the country's biggest scandal. The Court of Appeals ruled 2-1 in favor of Najib, overturning the lower court's dismissal of his earlier request.
From afar, I saw the 2 thumbs up. He was happy and in fact very relieved that finally they recognize some element of injustice that has been placed against him. Today we have got a good decision. In fact, I'm quite happy that it is a 2-1 decision because it does show there is some independence in the judiciary. You must bear in mind the majority judgment said that they cannot ignore the existence of the addendum order for various reasons. One is because we have produced the additional evidence, and this additional evidence from the first one to the second one, the AG has not even put up any affidavit to dispute it.
It has been distributed.
New revelations tonight in the deadly New Orleans truck ramming attack. The FBI has released chilling new evidence showing how the suspect, Shamsuddin Jabbar, prepared for this horrific event.
We have also tracked that Jabbar traveled to Cairo, Egypt from June 22nd until July 3rd of 2023. A few days later, he flew to Ontario, Canada on July 10th and returned to the U.S. on July 13th on 2023. Our agents are getting answers as to where he went, who he met with, and how those trips may or may not tie into his actions here in our city in New Orleans.
Investigators say Jabbar had visited New Orleans at least twice.
One in October and the other a month later in November of 2024. From what we now know, Jabbar stayed at a rental home in New Orleans beginning October 30th, 2024. He was in town at least 2 days. During that time, Jabbar, using Meta glasses, recorded a video as he rode through the French Quarter on a bicycle. This video shows Jabbar during that trip in October with his Meta glasses.
Surveillance footage shows him staying at a rental home in late October, where he recorded video while biking through the French Quarter using Meta glasses wearable tech that records video hands-free.
Jabbar was wearing a pair of Meta glasses when he conducted the attack on Bourbon Street, but he did not activate the glasses to live stream his actions that day. Thanks to information that is coming in from the public, we now know Jabbar was here in New Orleans also on November 10th. But we are still piecing together the details of that trip. Moving closer to the day of the attacks, Jabbar is seen on December 31st at one of multiple gun stores he visited in Texas. Just under 3 hours later, at 12:41 a.m. on New Year's morning, Jabbar parked the truck and walked to Royal and Governor Nichols Street. Jabbar placed the first IED in the cooler at Bourbon and St. Peter Street at 1:53 a.m. Someone on Bourbon Street, who we have no reason to believe was involved, dragged the cooler a block to Bourbon and Orleans, where our teams found it after the attack. Jabbar placed the second IED in a bucket-type cooler at 2:20 a.m. on Bourbon and Toulouse Streets. In the videos, you see Jabbar wearing the long brown coat we showed you in a photo released earlier. That coat was recovered in the rented F-150.
Authorities also released details about the device Jabbar had in his possession the night of the attack.
As far as the device that was recovered, the devices did have receivers attached to them with the explosives material. There was a transmitter that was recovered inside of Jabbar's vehicle, so we believe that the transmitter would have functioned and would have worked, but for New Orleans PD putting him down before he could get access to that transmitter and set off the devices.
This chilling glimpse into Jabbar's actions reveals the planning behind his New Year's Day terror attack in New Orleans, recorded through his biking glasses, capturing moments including a later reflection of himself in the mirror. In a bold diplomatic move, foreign ministers from Germany and France have traveled to Syria, reaching out to the new regime in Damascus. However, there's a significant detail that stands out. The Syrian leadership is still on the European Union's terrorism list, a minor inconvenience that Berlin and Paris seem to have overlooked. Take a look. Before the trip, the German foreign minister expressed hope for a reset in relations, describing her visit as an opportunity to extend an, quote, outstretched hand. But her gesture was not reciprocated. You see, the new Syrian rulers are conservative Islamists, and shaking a woman's hand is not in line with their customs. As a result, throughout the minister's visit, whether at the airport, the presidential palace, or during meetings, officials deliberately avoided shaking her hand. What made the situation even more awkward was that the same officials had no problem shaking hands with her junior colleagues. This stark contrast highlighted the cultural and political realities at play in Syria's relationship with the West.
Better future for Syria means an inclusive, peaceful transfer of power, reconciliation and reconstruction. This requires a political dialogue involving all ethnic and religious groups, involving men and equally women. They all must be involved in the constitutional process and in a future Syrian government.
It's a clear signal that despite diplomatic efforts, the regime's traditional stance remains unchanged. And the news continues here on NET25. We'll be right back. Next week's CES trade show in Las Vegas will showcase the latest innovations from auto and tech giants, but one topic will be hard to avoid, and that is tariffs. Tech innovators from across the globe are in Las Vegas showcasing cutting-edge gadgets ahead of CES 2025, which kicks off January 7. Expect AI-powered robots, advanced health tech, and immersive VR experiences to take center stage.
This is the RoPad. Underneath RoPad means the AI robotic pad. It's like a real cat dog. You can touch it. It will feel your touching, and it can recognize you and recognize all kinds of items. If you can try to build some long-term relationship with human beings, it knows who is friend, who is strangers, and try to play with you.
This is particularly good for elderly and patients that cannot work out on their own or work out independently. So just like this, up and down. The arms go up till 95-degree angle. and legs go up 96-degree angle. So over 90-degree angles on both of them. So it'll help maintain and build muscle for elderly. It's like you're doing a yoga and stretches.
Applications of the robot is actually for teleoperation, and we can do like security work, we can do inspection work, and right now we're controlling the robot completely manually, but also we can also have the robot to be able to walk on its own and take pictures doing inspection work on its own.
I'm wearing the Haptics TechSuit Pro, which has 32 vibration motors inside, 16 in the front and 16 in the back. And I'm also wearing haptic sleeves called Tech Sleeve. And I'm punching this monkey with the gloves, and then I can feel like feedback on my arms whenever I punch. And then I can grab this bat, and then I can feel feedback on the arms and on the right side of my vest whenever I hit the mannequin.
This is the Libre Live C1 stringless guitar. It is the very first stringless guitar. It is intended for backing your vocals. So excellent for a singer-songwriter like myself. I personally use it when I'm writing demos. I want to have a guitar sound on the demo, but I don't play guitar. And a MIDI keyboard is not going to get you that really nice sound where you can hear the metal and the twang of the guitar, and you just can't emulate it any other way.
Yeah, well, we use it for educational purposes. Imagine having a teacher being presented from one centralized location where I stand, but being presented in like 10 or 20 locations, doing a class and having feedback with students.
But beyond the glitz, concerns over tariffs are looming. President-elect Donald Trump's proposed import taxes on countries like Canada, Mexico, and China have industry leaders worried about rising costs for business and consumers. Gary Shapiro, CEO of the Consumer Technology Association, which organizes CES, didn't hold back.
It will not be positive for innovation. Innovation in the world will be better off if the best people in the world can be allowed to create products and trade with each other. It's a fundamental rule of economics, which virtually every economist accepts that tariffs are bad, and that the world trading system gives everyone in the world a rise up. The U.S. benefits from that more than any other country because our farmers are exporting, our creative community is exporting, but to the extent that we're creating barriers, electronic and physical barriers around our nation, that hurts American citizens, it hurts American companies, it hurts the American stock market, it hurts the retirement plans, the 401ks, the IRAs, and I know President Trump cares about all of that. So while tariffs are a negotiating tool for him, and we'll have some difficult, even terrorizing moments for the business community and American consumers, I think ultimately President Trump will do the right thing.
The event will also feature major keynote speakers, including NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang, alongside automakers like Honda and Toyota, who are expected to address not just the latest in AI-driven car tech, but how tariffs could disrupt supply chains. CES runs through January 10, with top executives from Delta, Volvo, Panasonic, and X Corp also taking the center stage. And with that, we end tonight's broadcast. For everyone here on NET25, I'm Alma Angeles. Thank you all for joining us. Good night.